स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय Ramakrishnaaya te namaha. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of the life of householder disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. We were studying the life of Girish Chandragush. We will continue with that. Girish Chandragush's self-surrender was truly unique and phenomenal. Swami Vivekananda once remarked in GC means Girish Chandragush. In GC alone, I have seen that true resignation. So Sharanagati. I have seen real Sharanagati in GC only. These are the words of Swami Vivekananda. In GC alone, I have seen that true resignation, the true spirit of a servant of the Lord. I have not met his parallel. Swami Vivekananda is telling, from him have I learned the lesson of self-surrender. During the later part of his life, many monks and devotees would visit Girish Chandragush to learn more about Ramakrishna from him. When Girish Chandragush spoke about Master, his face would flush. With emotional fervor. Even Swami Vivekananda, while he was in Calcutta, would say to the devotees, let us go to GC, that is Girish Chandragush, and have some false talk. What the Swami meant was that he would intentionally criticize Sri Ramakrishna so that they could listen to Girish defend Master with all his faith, vigor, and sincerity. This would create a tremendous spiritual atmosphere. Girish Chandragush was highly respected by devotees. Nag Mahashai, Durga Charan Nag, remarked, if a person sits near Girish Chandragush for 5 minutes, he will be uplifted from worldly pain and suffering. Girish Chandragush is a great hero, the guardian angel of Shiva. These were the words of Nag Mahashai himself about Girish Chandragush. Once Swami Vivekananda was giving a class on the Rig Veda and was in the process of explaining how creation evolved from sound. When Girish Chandragush arrived there, turning to him, Swami Vivekananda said, well, GC, you do not care to study all this. You pass your days with your adoration of this and that God. Hey. Now, Girish Chandragush said, what shall I study, brother? I have neither time nor understanding enough to pry into all that. But this time, with Sri Ramakrishna's grace, I shall cross the ocean of Maya, bidding farewell to your Vedas and Vedanta. The Master takes you through all these studies because he wants to teach many things through you. I don't need them. Girish Chandragush, saying this, touched the volume of Rig Veda with his head and exclaimed, "Victory to Sri Ramakrishna! Jai Sri Ramakrishna!" In the form of the Vedas. Victory to Sri Ramakrishna in the form of the Vedas. Then Girish Chandragush said to Swami Vivekananda, "Brother, you have read enough of the Vedas and Vedanta. Did you find anywhere in them a way for us out of these profound miseries in this country? All these wailings of grief, all this starvation, all these crimes of adultery and other horrible sins? Have your Vedas and Vedanta given any remedies for this?" Girish Chandra Ghosh continued narrating graphically the painful picture of Indian society. While Swami Vivekananda remained silent, tears began to flow from the eyes of Swami Vivekananda, hearing the plight of his countrymen, hearing the painful situation of India. Now, Swami Vivekananda started shedding tears. Vivekananda became silent. Tears began to roll from his eyes. He rose. Swami Vivekananda rose and left the room. Then Girish Chandra Ghosh said to the disciples, "Did you see? Did you see? What a great loving heart. I respect your Swamiji not as a Vedic scholar, but for that great heart of his, which made him retire, weeping just now at the thought of the sorrow of his fellow beings." Now, it was first the turn of Swami Vivekananda to taunt Girish Chandra Ghosh, but suddenly the tables turned. Girish Chandra Ghosh, now with that question, brought out the real heart of Swami Vivekananda. How much Vivekananda felt for India and its people. Even when he was elderly, Girish Chandra Ghosh would fast as a religious observance during the Shivaratri celebrations, a yearly festival in honor of Lord Shiva. Once someone asked him, "You are old and not well. Why should you fast now?" To which Girish Chandra Ghosh replied, "I get something." What? A vision. A vision of whom? Lord Shiva or Sri Ramakrishna. I get a vision of Sri Ramakrishna. Does he talk to you? No. And then Girish added, "That is the last wish of my life." During the last, so now here you can see when asked why he would fast on Shivaratri even though he was very old, Girish is telling that he would get something. And what something? A vision. And vision of whom? Lord Shiva or Sri Ramakrishna. I get a vision of the Master. Does he talk to you? I get the vision, but that is my last wish. So, used to fast on Shivaratri because of that. Used to get the vision of Lord Shiva in the form of Sri or Ramakrishna would give him the vision on the day of Shivaratri. During the last few years of his life, Girish Chandra Ghosh suffered terribly from asthma. Yet he had attained such a state of mind that disease, pain, and grief could not subdue his spirit. Even during his asthma attacks, he would say with a smile, "Look, I have no sympathy for this ungrateful body. I have given it good food for its nourishment, taken care of it with comforts and all sorts of things. Yet, this very body has courted this trouble, asthma, terrible asthma. Truly speaking, I don't want this disease to be cured. Every attack of asthma reminds me of the impermanence of the body. Then he prayed, Lord, you are gracious. May I have faith until death. So, Girish is giving a wonderful lesson to all of us. He's telling each bouts of asthma, each time he felt the pain and trouble, he used to feel the impermanence of this world. So now, even he's using this calamity, this disease, to get vairagya and to get love of God. Now he is knowing the real meaning, Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. This body is impermanent. It will cause you pain. The reality is only God. So go for that reality. Give up these impermanent things. That is what Girish Chandragush is telling. Look, I have no sympathy for this ungrateful body. I have given it good food for its nourishment, taken care of it with comforts and all sorts of things. Yet this very body has courted this terrible asthma. Truly speaking, I don't want this disease to be cured. Every attack of asthma reminds me of the impermanence of this body. Then he prayed, Lord, you are gracious. May I have faith until death. So the pain, the disease should not lower my faith. I should have that intense faith in Ramakrishna until I give up the body. That was his wish, that was his prayer. Once, while Girish Chandragush was pondering his own death, he thought, see, can you imagine, until unless you are a very progressed soul in spirituality, you can't think of your death. Now Girish Chandragush is pondering his own death. He thought, well, death is slowly approaching. What will happen after death? I do not know where I shall go. Girish was thinking in this way when Mahendranath Gupta Yam, the recorder of gospel, came to visit him. Yam, that is Mahendranath Gupta, started to talk with Girish about Sri Ramakrishna. Both were greatly devoted to Sri Ramakrishna. So now both of them started talking about Ramakrishna. Suddenly, in an inspired mode, Girish said to Master Mahashaya, Brother, could you beat me with your shoes? I'm not joking, I'm serious. Master Mahashaya smiled and asked the reason for such a request. Girish replied, to tell you the truth, I deserve a shoe beating. Sri Ramakrishna is sitting within my heart and is always protecting me, yet I wonder what will happen to me after death. That is the reason I asked you to beat me with shoes. Now you can see. He gives us the lesson how we can change our attitude. We simply babble many things in our mouth, but we don't mean it. Now, Girish Chandragush is teaching this great lesson. You have to make your words and thought and your heart one. There should be no hypocrisy in the heart. So earlier, when Mahendranath Gupta came, he was asking, and he was also pondering what will happen after death. But now you can see Girish replied, I deserve a shoe beating because Sri Ramakrishna is sitting within my heart and is always protecting me. And yet I wonder what will happen to me after death. So that is faith. When Ramakrishna is sitting in my heart, nothing is going to happen otherwise. I have to be protected. We have to have that peace, faith, intense faith. So Girish Chandragush came to this world to teach us what faith is. Another time, Girish said to his brother disciples with his usual vigor, do you think I cannot get rid of this ordinary disease? I can. I can prove it to you. If I roll on the ground of the Panchavati at Dakshineshwar and forcefully pray to Sri Ramakrishna, this disease will go away. But I know Sri Ramakrishna is all merciful. It is His will that I am undergoing this disease, grief, pain, and suffering. Everything is for my own good. This feeling, by His grace, is so strong in my mind. By Ramakrishna's grace, that feeling, everything that is happening, whether that is disease, grief, pain, or suffering, everything is happening for my good. This feeling, by Sri Ramakrishna's grace, is so strong in my mind that I have no inclination to pray that my disease be cured. Sri Ramakrishna is a wish fulfilling tree. Kamadenu, Kalpa Vriksha. Whenever I have prayed for anything, I have gotten it. So do you think that I cannot cure this asthma or whatever disease? I can easily, that is a trifle. I just pray to Sri Ramakrishna with a crying heart, He will do it. Whenever I have prayed to Sri Ramakrishna, I have gotten it. Sri Ramakrishna's touch gradually awakened the God consciousness in Girish Chandragush. And Girish's faith and devotion made it even stronger. Once Girish Chandragush, referring to the Master, he said, I find that it is not difficult to obey Sri Ramakrishna, love him or worship him. But for me, indeed, it is very difficult to forget him. What a wonderful statement. Girish Chandragush is telling that I find that Girish Chandragush is finding that it is not difficult for him to obey Sri Ramakrishna, love Sri Ramakrishna, or even worship Sri Ramakrishna. But indeed, the most difficult thing for Girish Chandragush is to forget Sri Ramakrishna. He cannot forget. See, Ramakrishna had taken the Vakalat, power of attorney. Now you can see the real power of the power of attorney. So Girish Chandragush has given up. Everything belongs to Sri Ramakrishna, his Ishtadevata. Whatever happens, griefs or any suffering or happiness, everything is by his will. So that is his approach. Now that has made him surrender at the feet of Sri Ramakrishna. That's why he's telling, it is not difficult to obey Sri Ramakrishna. It is not difficult to have love or bhakti or love Sri Ramakrishna or even worship him. But Girish Chandragush is telling, because Ramakrishna has taken the power of attorney and he has given. He should truly mean it. Now he's telling it is very, very difficult for me to forget Sri Ramakrishna. When people would lament their ill luck at not having been given the chance to meet Sri Ramakrishna, Girish would reply, as Mother Ganga flowed in 100 streams in order to redeem Sagara dynasty, so the exuberant love of Sri Ramakrishna is flowing through hundreds of devotees in order to eventually redeem the world. Sri Ramakrishna had asked Girish to continue acting and writing dramas, and Girish Chandragush did so until the end of his life. Because obeying his master, he never gave it up until his end of his life. Until the end of his life, he continued the order of Sri Ramakrishna. On July 15th, 1911, Girish Chandragush gave his last performance at the Minerva Theatre in Calcutta. It was cold, rainy day. He was suffering with asthma, and his role required that he come on stage several times bare-chested. People were concerned about the health of Girish Chandragush and asked him not to perform this role. But Girish Chandragush argued that he should not disobey the order of Sri Ramakrishna. See that surrender attitude. Ramakrishna has asked me to enact and to play the drama, write the drama, poetry, up till the end. So I don't want to miss this wonderful chance. I have to obey the words of the Master. So even though many people forced him not to act in the drama, Girish Chandragush should not give it up. And now he argued that he should not disobey Sri Ramakrishna, who had asked him to act. Moreover, he knew many people could be disappointed if he did not appear on the stage. Now the strain and the weather combined to aggravate his disease. Thereafter, Girish Chandragush's health declined rapidly. To those who were anxious about him, he would say, "This body does not belong to me. It belongs to Sri Ramakrishna. It will remain in this world as long as Sri Ramakrishna keeps it." Now, Girish Chandragush breathed his last on February 8, 1912. His last words were, "Master, you have come. O Master, Sri Ramakrishna, you have come." Now, what do you mean by his last words? That means Ramakrishna has really come now to him during his last moment, and he's talking to him. So now Girish Chandragush is talking back to him. And what is he telling at that last moment of his life? His last words were, "Master, you have come." And what was his prayer, last prayer to Sri Ramakrishna? "O Master, please destroy my worldly intoxication. Please destroy my worldly intoxication." That was his last prayer. Victory to Sri Ramakrishna. Jai Sri Ramakrishna, Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Let us go, Master, let us go, let us go. These were the last words of Girish Chandragush. Jai Sri Ramakrishna, let us go, Master. Girish left the stage of the world as he had left the stage of the theatre, with the flourish and heroism of a seasoned actor. Like a drama in itself, the story of his miraculous transformation has traveled from person to person, place to place, and country to country. Girish Chandragush acting, writing, love for art, feeling for the poor and the fallen, and above all, his faith in his Guru. That was something tremendous. He was an example, he was an ideal for Guru Bhakti. So he's acting, writing, love for art, feeling for the poor and the fallen, and above all, his faith in his Guru have made him immortal. So Girish Chandra Ghosh passed, passed away. Breath is last on February 8th, 1912. So his last words were, that means he's seeing Sri Ramakrishna at the last moment. Ramakrishna has come to him. So his last words were, Master, you have come. Please destroy my worldly intoxication. Victory to Sri Ramakrishna. Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Let us go, Master. Let us go. These were the last words of Girish Chandra Ghosh. So what a wonderful life we have gone through. Such a beautiful life of Girish Chandra Ghosh. And we have got so many things to learn for our spiritual life. So we have taken as much, and we shall also continue to meditate on these ideals and get more newer things from their life. Now, from now onwards, we will take up another life of Ramakrishna's disciple, that is Ramachandra Datta. As the surname Datta indicates, he was a very close relative of Swami Vivekananda. What was the full name of Narendra Nathan Datta? So they were from the Datta family. They were all related. Faith and devotion are two important milestones on the path towards God. So now, what is the use of having faith? Why should we have faith? Yes, God realization is one of the answer to get the favor and grace of God. Now, how is it useful in the worldly sense? Now, it is given here, faith removes worry. Should note this very important thing. Really something special. Faith, what does the faith do? Faith removes worry, chinta, depression, and all these things. Faith removes worry. Faith removes anxiety. And faith removes fear. While devotion, bhakti, makes our life smooth and joyous, human life becomes very painful and burdensome if a person has no one to trust and love. Spiritual seekers who put their trust in God and love Him wholeheartedly surrender themselves to Him, that is God, and as a result, God, the eternal Father, takes care of those people. Just as children enjoy a carefree life in their own homes, so also spiritual seekers who have faith in God live happily in this world, just like those children who live a carefree life, very happy, always happy, playing, enjoying every bit of the life. Truly, God provides whatever his devotee needs. He will not go on pampering you, giving you whatever you want because it may be dangerous. You do not know what is good and bad, what is right and wrong. So we have to surrender to the Lord. He will give us the right thing. God so provides whatever his devotees needs. Not our greeds, but he will provide all our needs. Ramachandra Datta, a household disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, had unflinching faith in Sri Ramakrishna, and his love and devotion for Ramakrishna was exuberant, overflowing. He used to say that any place Sri Ramakrishna visited, even for a day, became a holy place, and that whoever came to Master Sri Ramakrishna and served him even once, they were blessed. Ramachandra Datta further asserted that the horse carriage which Sri Ramakrishna took to visit the Calcutta devotees along with its coachman and horses even were all sanctified by the touch of Master. So such was the intense faith of Ramchandra Datta that he believed, he used to tell that not only people who approached Sri Ramakrishna and surrendered to him, but even the horses, the horse carriage people who drew the horse, who had seen Sri Ramakrishna, they too will get liberation. That was the faith of Ramachandra Datta about Ramakrishna. He used to say that any place that Sri Ramakrishna visited, even for a day, became a holy place. And whosoever came to Sri Ramakrishna and served him even once were blessed. An important thing which Ramachandra Datta had intense faith is he asserted that the horse carriage which Sri Ramakrishna took him to visit Calcutta devotees along with its coachman, the man who drove Ramakrishna in his own carriage in those days, and also the horses were all sanctified by the touch of Sri Ramakrishna. That was the intense belief of Ramachandra Datta, faith of Ramachandra Datta in Sri Ramakrishna. Ramachandra Datta's attitude was considered extreme by many, and once someone sarcastically remarked, "If that is true, then what is there to fear? So many people have seen Sri Ramakrishna on the street and on, and and so many coachmen have driven him. Do you think that all these people will get liberation?" Now Ramachandra Datta's face turned red, and he vehemently replied, "Go and take the dust of the feet of the coachman who drew Ramakrishna. Go and take the dust of the feet of the sweeper of Dakshineshwar who had seen Sri Ramakrishna. This will make your life pure and blessed." That was the intense faith with Ramachandra Datta had towards Ramakrishna. Ramachandra Datta was born in Calcutta on October 30, 1851. His father, Nrisingha Prasada Datta, was a devotee of Lord Krishna, and his mother, Tulasi Mani was known for her piety and kindness. All of these good qualities Ramachandra imbibed from his parents. When Ramachandra Datta was 2.5 years old, his mother died, and some woman relative in their home looked after Ramachandra Datta. Ramachandra Datta's favorite pastime when he was young was to worship Lord Krishna. Sometimes he would arrange a festival and invite playmates with whom he would share prasad offered to Lord Krishna. Other times he would dress himself as a gopi. The women of Braja or Vrindavan, they were called gopis. So Ramchandra Datta would arrange festival and invite playmates with whom he would share prasad. But other times he would dress himself as gopi, the devotees of Sri Krishna, and he would dance in front of the deity. We should not dance or clap or sing to please other people, to get praises from them, but to please the Lord. If you do that, that will be really beneficial. So, Ramachandra as a boy liked to visit hermitage near his home when he came in contact with monks of different orders. These monks loved the young boy for his devotion and religious fervor. From his boyhood, Ramachandra Datta was very bold and straightforward about his convictions, and no one could persuade him to act contrary to them. When he was 10 years old, he visited the home of a relative who lived about 25 miles from Calcutta. This relative knew that Sri Ramachandra Datta was a strict vegetarian, but in spite of this, he served Ramachandra Datta a non vegetarian meal and tried to persuade him to eat it. Now, Ramachandra Datta became furious and he immediately left the house. He did not have any money to buy a train ticket, and a generous person bought one for him so that he would return back home. Even in the latter part of his life, in spite of his education and science, he remained firm in his convictions. Once, a doctor prescribed meat soup for his ailing wife, but Ramachandra Datta would not approve of it. He said, "Let my wife die, but I won't allow her to eat meat." I don't want the meat to enter my house. Fortunately, his wife recovered without the non vegetarian soup. Eventually, Ramachandra Datta's father remarried, but Ram did not get along with his stepmother. Shortly after this, Ramachandra's father was forced to sell the parental home due to financial difficulties, and Ramachandra Datta moved to a relative's home. Although Ram suffered various kinds of hardship in his early life, he preserved, sorry, he persevered in his education. He studied at the General Assembly's institution and later was admitted to the Campbell Medical School in Calcutta. Sometime after his graduation, He was appointed as an assistant to the government quinine examiner. He also married about this time. Later, when Ramachandra Datta became financially solvent, he bought a house for his family at Shimla in the central part of Calcutta. Ram was deeply interested in science and studied chemistry under his English supervisor with great diligence. Having learned this subject thoroughly, Ramachandra Datta extracted from an indigenous medical plant an antidote for blood dysentery. This drug was approved by the government and was recommended by the leading doctors. As a result, Ramachandra Datta's fame spread and he was appointed a member of the Chemist Association of England. He was also promoted to the post of government chemical examiner and was asked to teach the military medical students at the Calcutta Medical College. Ramachandra Datta's great enthusiasm for science and modern knowledge made him an inspiring lecturer to the students. He attracted the students by his talk, but it also made him an atheist. He stopped believing in God. And let us hear those period of his as the atheist. In his own words, in those days, Ramachandra Datta is telling that we did not believe in God in those days. We considered that everything that happens in this world, the changes or dissolves, it happens by the force of nature. We were rank materialists, Ramachandra Datta told, we were rank materialists and we held the view that eating, sleeping, creature comforts were the summum bonum of life. So the whole goal of life was eating, drinking, sleeping, and enjoying and relaxation. That's all. That is the goal of life. So Ramachandra Datta is telling they were rank materialists and he held the view, the Charvaka view, that eating, sleeping, and creature comforts were the summum bonum, the goal of life. Ramachandra Datta was fond of debating with others about God and religion and found great satisfaction in defeating his opponents. This ardor for atheism lasted only for 5 years. What happened then? Grief is an eye opener in everybody's life. Difficulties and griefs are eye openers. Then only we'll start seriously thinking of our life. Grief, sorrow is an eye opener which forces a person to face the harsh realities of life. The death of his young daughter was a terrible shock to Ramachandra Datta. And a great change came over his life. After this, he got so much of vairagya towards this world. A great change came over his life. On the Kali Puja evening, sometimes after his daughter's death, he went up to the roof of his house and observed the houses of Calcutta glittering with lights above. The dark, clear sky was studded with twinkling stars. His grief stricken heart seemed to be searching for something meaningful in that panorama of nature. All of a sudden, he noticed some clouds passing overhead, driven by the wind. They quickly disappeared. Ramachandra asked himself, where do they come from and where do they grow? Where do they go? Does God exist? If so, why can't he be seen? These were the questions that were troubling him. He started to visit different religious leaders of the Brahma Samaj, Christians, and Hindu faith, but nobody could give answers. His question about God and religion. During this time, Ramachandra Datta's family guru came to his house and wanted to initiate him. Ramachandra Datta was forthright. He said, Sir, I do not believe in God at all. Moreover, I have terrible doubts about his existence itself. Can you tell me the way to realize God? Now, the family guru kept quiet. He did not know what to say. The great inquiry began to possess Ramachandra Datta. He became more and more determined to have his doubts removed and to satisfy his hunger for God. He started studying many religious books but could find no satisfactory answers to his questions. At last, he came to know about Sri Ramakrishna from the teachings of Girish Chandra Sen, Keshav Chandra Sen, a Brahmo leader of Calcutta. So wrote, he read the article written by Keshav Chandra Sen. On November 13, 1879, Ramachandra Datta went by boat to Dakshineshwar with Gopal Chandra Mitra and a cousin. Manamohana Mitra was also there, his cousin. As soon as they reached the Dakshineshwar temple garden, they inquired about Sri Ramakrishna and were directed to his room. But when they reached there, they found that the door was shut, and their Western education made them hesitate to call out or knock. Just then, Sri Ramakrishna opened the door himself from inside and asked them to come in. Ramachandra Datta noticed that Sri Ramakrishna did not look like a traditional ochre clad monk with matted hairs and ash smeared all over the body. So, that is the typical idea about the Indian sadhus. But here, Ramakrishna doesn't have any external look like that of a sadhu at all. Ramachandra Datta noticed that Sri Ramakrishna did not look like the traditional ochre-clad monk with matted hair and ash-smeared body. On the contrary, the master was the embodiment of simplicity. Sri Ramakrishna saluted all of them, addressing all of them as Narayana, and asked them to sit down. Then Sri Ramakrishna smiled at Ramachandra Datta and said, Hello, are you not doctor practicing medicine? Ramakrishna pointing to Hriday, he told, Hello, are you not a doctor? He is suffering from fever, that is Hriday. Could you check this pulse? Ramachandra Datta was astonished that Sri Ramakrishna represented that his body After examining Hriday, Ramachandra Datta reported that Hriday's body temperature was normal. From the very beginning, Sri Ramakrishna made Ramachandra Datta his own and would often inquire about his personal life and mental conflicts. Ramachandra Datta felt greatly attracted towards Sri Ramakrishna and he started to visit him every Sunday, returning home in the evening. Soon Ramachandra Datta felt bold enough to ask the question that has been haunting him. Ramachandra Datta now asked the question to Sri Ramakrishna: Sir, does God exist? How can one see God? That was the question which was troubling him from many days, and he asked Ramakrishna, Can I ask you some question? And then asked him, Does God exist? How can one see God? To which Sri Ramakrishna replied, Yes, God really exists. You do not see any stars during the day, but that does not mean that the stars do not exist at all. Then again, Ramakrishna gave another example. There is butter in the milk, but can anyone know it merely by sight? In order to get the butter, one must churn the milk in a cool place before sunrise. If you want to catch fish in a pond, you have to learn the art of fishing from those who know it, and then you must sit patiently of fishing. You must sit patiently with a fishing rod, throwing the line into the water. Gradually, the fish will grab your bait. Then, as soon as the float sinks, you can pull the fish to the shore. Similarly, you cannot realize God by mere wish. Simply, if you tell in your mind, I like to realize God, just by the mere wish, you cannot realize God. Have faith in the instructions of the holy man. Make your mind life, make your mind like a fishing rod and your prana or life force in your body, prana, like a hook. Your devotion and japam or like the bait to catch what fish? To catch the Lord Himself. So, what a wonderful example given by Sri Ramakrishna. Your devotion and japa, taking the name of the Lord japa, or like the bait, eventually you will be blessed by the vision of God. What a wonderful analogy. That was the first question he asked and he got the answer. Now, we shall stop our study of the life of householder disciples here. We will continue this life of Ramachandra Datta in the next session. Now we shall close the session by the prayer. Om Priyatam Pundari Kakshaha Sarvayagneshwaro Harihi Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam Prinite Prinitam Jagat Harihi Om Tatsat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you. Namaste. Om Namo Narayanaya. We will meet again to study the same life of the householder disciple Ramachandra Datta. Om Namo Narayana.